Good evening. I'm Mark Harrington, and today I'm going to be talking to Sean Harrington, a private Irish tutor in the local area. So Sean, how did you first become associated with the Irish language?
Well, I was fortunate enough that I grew up in Jehuma back in the 60s, and at the time it was a place where a lot of Irish was still spoken, and we were required to speak Irish in national school. And as well as that, my mother was a fluent speaker, so was my grandmother.
When did you first start to speak Irish?
In national school at the time, everything was done through Irish, which meant that you were actually required to speak it in the playground as well, but some did, some didn't. But certainly by the time I was sorted through the national school cycle, I would have been quite fluent.
Tell me about the methods you use.
After I came back from England, I realised that even though I could speak the language, I didn't understand the grammar fully. So I started to ask myself questions about, for instance, why would you have something like Lár an Lae, which is the middle of the day, but the middle of the night is Lár na Hiha. So I figured there was something going on there. There's a thing called the Tissue Ginija, which obviously I'd heard of, but I wanted to explore it more. So I teach Irish, therefore, from a grammatical standpoint, which doesn't suit everybody, but I find it's very successful.
Did you ever encounter anyone you couldn't teach?
There have been one or two people over the years. One person in particular, highly intelligent man, a professional. I won't say what profession he's in, to be giving the game away. But basically we couldn't get to first base, whatever. He reckons that he was unteachable, and other people had tried to teach him Irish as well. I thought I was going to work the oracle, but it didn't happen, so basically we just laughed about it and he walked away. But he's the only one I can think of off the top of my head who the thing didn't work with, you know.
What is your fondest memory of teaching Irish?
I remember there was one young man that came to me. He'd got a C in ordinary level in the junior cert, so he ended up coming to me for 2 years and he got an A2 in higher level Irish, and he's gone on to pretty decent things from there. And you know, I was quite pleased about that, because he worked really hard and we got a result, so that would be one of the highlights.
Do you prefer private tuition or school teaching?
I did really enjoy the teaching in front of a class. It was really, you know, it invigorated me, and I really enjoyed going in there every morning. But to be honest, I enjoy teaching individuals and indeed private classes as well, because there's always a bit of a sort of a vibe going on, you know. There's always a bit of crack, which you couldn't always have in the convent, even though it did happen more often than not. But I couldn't honestly say. I think they were both really good, to be quite honest.
What are the greatest difficulties encountered by people learning Irish?
I think it's the fear factor, because of the fact that Irish has been taught inadequately and people have been coerced into learning it as opposed to being encouraged.
So what are your plans for the future?
I do a certain amount of translation as well, so I'm hoping to maybe build a little bit on that as the economy improves, and maybe I'll start getting a little bit more work in that area as well. But by and large, I'm happy enough tutoring people, either individuals or groups, and I wouldn't rule out going back to second level again, because I enjoy that as well, but it's a pretty fluid situation at the moment.
That was very interesting, and I want to thank you for taking the time to answer my questions.
My pleasure. Thank you.
See you soon.